Hey everyone, the numbers for the Panama City Beach condo market, Gulfront condo market are in for August of 2021. I'm Craig Duran with the Duran Group over at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Wanted to give you an update. I just looked at my video archives and see that I haven't done one of these for you since July, and I haven't even got specific to your condo project since April. So to give you a little update on things going forward, we've retooled some things so that I'll be giving you specific pricing updates once per quarter for your condo building. We're doing a lot of them, so I wanted to get really granular on those, and they take a lot of time. So we're going to do those once per quarter for you, but we are going to get back to giving you at least an update once per month so you can see what's going on. A lot has happened in the condo market very quickly, so we'll go through some of that with you. A lot has happened. I even have glasses now that I didn't have before. Let's take a look. There's a pretty dramatic shift happening on some of the data, so I want to go through that with you and take a look and see what's going on. First of all, you guys know, of course, I'm going to go to my go-to chart here that you guys all know pretty well by now, but if you haven't seen this or if you need a refresher, this is representative of the entire Gulfront market. Just on the new buildings, this is pulling from 2005 builds and newer. The red line, remember, represents the number of units that are for sale at any given time. The black line represents the number of closings that are happening. And then we're going to talk about this months of inventory number in just a minute. First of all, look at this. There's a couple different things to look at just on the chart itself. Very quickly, since about May of this year, the red line, which again represents how many condos are actually out there for sale on the market, we've pretty quickly come back to pre-pandemic levels. The pandemic hit right about in here. And so remember, the first 2 months or so right after the pandemic started was sort of a pause on everything real estate, at least for the condo market. And so we had a couple of months where there were even more condos for sale because sales volume actually had just stopped or suspended pretty much. But pretty quickly, by the beginning of May, I think you've remembered some of these previous reports, we started selling condos, and we started selling a lot of them, and you can see what happened. There were just fewer and fewer and fewer condos for sale. But look at where we are now. As of August 2021, and this isn't even what's happened in the last week and a half or so, we now have as many condos for sale on the market, Gulfront condos, newer ones, than we did before the pandemic hit. So if I get my ace out of here, you can see this is where we were hovering. Before the pandemic, we were looking around 120 units for sale at any given point, maybe a little less than that. And look at where we are now. We're more than that. We're probably 140-ish, 148 looks like on the chart. So it's one thing that's important to realize, and look at this from a couple different standpoints. If you're thinking about selling still this year or in the short term, all of a sudden buyers have this much more competition very quickly than or buyers have this much more choice, I'm sorry. Sellers have this much more competition than they did just a couple of months ago. All of a sudden sellers have a little less of the advantage than they did just 3 months ago. Buyers are starting to feel that they have more choices out there in the market. Remember, one of the things to take away from the data on this point is this months of inventory number. And again, for those of you who don't remember, months of inventory traditionally in real estate has meant that, or is a good way for us to understand hot market, cold market, buyer's market, seller's market. Traditionally, 5 or 6 months of inventory would represent a neutral market. That would mean theoretically it would take 5 or 6 months to sell through everything that was for sale in the market at one time. Another way to think about it is seller calls real estate office. It takes time to get marketing going. 20 years ago, it might take us 30 days to run magazine ads, newspaper ads, and those kinds of things. Less time now with the internet. Then it would take us a few months to arrange for showings, negotiate contracts, and another 30 or 45 days to close the contract. So that whole process would take 5 or 6 months traditionally. Again, I can contend that it's more like 4 or 5 months now, just because we can get marketing going so much sooner than we used to. That being said, let's look at where we are from a months of inventory standpoint. just back in March, April, May, like we were just talking about, when we had this insanely hot condo market, we were at 0.42, 0.49, 0.81 months of inventory. Theoretically, that means that the whole process, calling real estate office, getting marketing going, showings, negotiating, and closing, would take less than a half a month for the entire market on average. That's just, if you think about that, it's just really, really dramatic and extreme. We've slowed down a little bit. We're now gone from 0.49 months of inventory to the last 3 months have gone to 1, which if you think about it in percentages, we're twice as slow as we were in April. From June to July, we went from 1.07 to 2, twice as slow again, just in 1 month period of the slowdown of how long things are taking. And we're now hovering at 2.55 months of inventory, which is still, when you compare it to traditional real estate thinking, is still a very healthy seller's market. If 4 or 5 months is neutral, we're approaching neutral. We're about 2.55. And again, remember, today we're still looking in the past from August. That's not accounting all the activity that may have happened here in the last week and a half or two. So we're approaching neutral market territory. We're still a bit of seller market territory, but we're not as extremely hot as we were. A couple of things that come into this for sellers, anyone thinking about selling, pricing becomes that much more important. 3, 4, 5 months ago, we were pricing things 10% over the highest recent sale, maybe even more in some cases. We're getting to the point where we can't do that anymore. Buyers, again, have many more choices than they did just 2 months ago, 3 months ago. And also, if you get inside of the buyer's mind for a second, buyers are starting to feel like they have more choices and more choices coming, which is also slowing down their process. Combine that with the seasonality of things. Buyers have a different bit of motivation in August, September, October about beach real estate than they do February, March, April. There's no beach season right around the corner. They don't have to feel like they're in a hurry to be able to put something up for rentals or to be able to use it. So all those things are working against us a little bit. That's why traditionally this time of year we do slow down a little bit. So some of this isn't terribly surprising, but it is important if you are selling or thinking about selling that your pricing is tighter than it was, and better thought out than it was than maybe we could be doing 3 or 4 months ago. Buyers are starting to know they have choice, and things are slowing a little bit. Let's look at a couple of numbers that are going to be pretty eye-opening also. So I compared the last 30 days, and I wanted to compare it to the same 30 days last year. And then I went back and also wanted to look at May of this year and compare it to see some examples. So first of all, let's look at this. Total active means how many units do we have on the market for sale? Right now we're down 14%. So we still have less units for sale right now than we did this time last year, which is an encouraging thing. But let's look at that compared to May. And this kind of highlights the slowdown a little bit more. In May, we had 58% fewer condos for sale. So think about that. It's the same thing. We're just following that red line again. 58% fewer condos, or 58% fewer condos for sale year over year in May. It's now only 14% fewer. Let's look at a couple other numbers. New listings. So in the last 30 days, the number of condos that are new to the market for sale, we're still down 10%. So we're still off inventory levels a little bit year over year. But look at new listings in May of this year. We had 65% more year over year units coming to the market. A lot of sellers thinking they could take advantage of this really hot market. Now here comes a couple of real telling numbers. The number under contract. So this is right now, the last 30 days, the number of units under contract. How fast are we selling these things? Right now, we're down 28% year over year when compared to last year. That's significant. Last year was a very, very good year for selling for condos in August and September. And look at that number compared to May. May, we were up 14%. Right now, we're down 28% of the number of units that are under contract. And think about that from a percentage standpoint for a second. From positive 14 to negative 28 is like 42%. That's yeah, I'm sorry, 42% is the entire swing. In terms of percentages, that means we moved, what is that, 14, 10? That's like a 400% swing in the other direction. So another significant number to remember. And now let's look at the number of sold year over year. The number of contracts that have closed in the last 30 days on condo is down 20% than we were last year. Last year at this time, we had closed 129% more condos than we had the previous year of that. Now think about those last numbers for a second. We're off compared to last year 20%. In May, though, we were still on fire. We were 129% higher than the previous May. All of a sudden in August, we're now off 20%. That's the red line. We've got more units for sale. We have a few less transactions going on. We still have transactions happening. There's still sales going. We're still busy. But if you think about it, what I've been saying recently, we're cooling off from the surface of the sun hot to maybe now we're getting out to the atmosphere and maybe to Mercury hot. We're starting to cool down. Some transactions are going to take a little bit longer to get done, or units are going to take a little longer to sell. There's going to be a point in here somewhere where units take a little longer to sell, and that's going to affect pricing. I don't see that we're there yet. We're going in that direction slowly. I think one thing to keep in mind if you're a seller right now or an owner thinking about selling, we've been pretty spoiled recently by, let's put the unit on the market, and within 48 hours we have 8 offers, 25 offers in 6 days or something like that. We're starting to go back to these normal levels in real estate. Remember that 4 to 5 months of inventory idea. So normal levels means things could take 60, 75, 85, 90 days to get under contract. Not so long ago, 100, 110 days was the average in our market for the whole thing to take. So 60, 65, 70 days is still not a long time historically, but that may feel like a really long time when we've been having things go under contract in 1 day, 2 days, 5 days. Trying to get to 60 days is like, wow, what's the problem? So keep that in mind if you're a seller too. We can price appropriately, and I don't think we have to give anything away quite yet, but we might just have to be a little more patient. Things might have to take just a little bit longer to be able to get done. Last statistic on our chart here, the average sales price, not surprising, the average sales price in August was still up 31% year over year. We know that the condo appreciation has been really, really insane the last few years, especially the last year and a half. That number was up 23%. So in May, we were up 23% year over year. This year, we're still up 31%. And final comment on all this. I almost think about it like a boat. If a boat is moving through the water and you kill the engine, the boat's still going to drift a little bit before it's going to eventually stop. The same thing I see happening in the market right now. We still have prices holding pretty well, and in some cases drifting up just a touch. It's almost drifting like the boat, but sales volume is starting to stop, or I'm sorry, slow down just a little bit. So those buyers that still are going to commit to buying something are still comfortable paying in range of the price of where the market is today. But we're just seeing a few less sales happening. So we have, as sellers, we have to be a little bit more patient. At some point, when we have too many sellers needing to be too patient, too many things on the market for sale that aren't selling, that may have to bring prices down, and we may see a slight correction there. It'll be interesting to see what happens now through the off season into the season next year. Are we going to have a lot of units come up for sale that get absorbed very quickly and everybody buys them between now and next March or April? Or are we going to have a lot of things come to the market and that demand wane a little bit and things start to sit? At some point, when things start to sit is where we see the pressure on pricing. So hopefully what you get out of this is you're starting to see, which is not being heavily reported yet, that this market, real estate market, which is still very good, things are just taking a little longer to happen now. And that's the beginning of potentially where things could head if we slow. At what point do we slow down and then do we come back up again? Are we going to slow down to 3 or 4 months of inventory and stay there for a while and then pick back up again? Or are we going to slow down to 3 or 4 months of inventory and go to 5, 6, 7 months of inventory? Very much a strong buyer's market, very much correction territory. So some things to be aware of. Again, if you're selling, make sure your pricing is on point. It can't be arbitrary like we almost felt like it was a few months ago. If you aren't on our e-alert system, I haven't talked about this in a while, but especially as the market shifts and especially as units come up for sale quickly and things are still going under contract and selling, the e-alert system is a really great way for you to keep up with the market like a real estate agent does. We can set you up to receive e-alerts just inside of a building where you own. We can set you up for e-alerts for just 1 bedrooms across the beach. If you wanted to compare all 1 bedrooms or all 3 bedrooms or just the 1 bedrooms in your building, we can customize it however you want. But the point is, anytime something comes up for sale, changes price, gets a contract, or closes, we can send you that information, and we can also control how often that information comes to you. So you can either get an email every time something happens, or you can get an email once a week, once a month, to just keep you updated, so you can really see in real time how these things are moving, especially pricing. Hope you guys found this helpful. Next month, I do have it calendared, and I will give you specific pricing information and market data similar to this for a number of condos. The ones I can think of off the top of my head will be Calypso, Aqua, Splash, Tidewater, Sunrise Beach, Seychelles, Majestic Beach Resort, Hidden Dunes, and I'm missing 1 or 2, but I'll get very specific. If you'd like to receive any of those, or if you would like a version of an assessment for another project, I'm happy to put that together. If you want that, or you want to be signed up for e-alerts and you aren't already, the easiest way to do that is to either text me at 850-527-0221, and you can just put in your building Calypso e-alerts or all 1 bedroom e-alerts, however you want it. Or if you have a building that's not on our list, we'll get that taken care of also. You can also feel free to shoot me an email, craig@craigduran.com. Hope you guys found this helpful. We'll be back next month again with very detailed analysis of all those buildings for you. Thanks, guys.